Welcome to the AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today, my guest is Mark Begley from Autosoft. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
Where'd you come in from today?
I drove all the way up from Cincinnati.
Place that's near and dear to my heart.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's great. Home of my Bengals.
Yes, mine too. and finally, we're looking good again.
They're starting to play better, so hopefully they can keep it going on. They got an okay game this weekend, but a tougher one coming up for the rest of the year.
Yep. Well, hey, let's just dive in with a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit about yourself and the career path that led you to where you are today with Autosoft.
All right. I appreciate you having me here today, first of all. I do come from Cincinnati, grew up in Cincinnati, got into the car business in the 80s. I spent 30 years in the automotive business running dealerships, 7 years of that as an F&I director, 7 years as a fixed operations director, the rest of it as a general manager. I did spend 6 years as an industry consultant, helping dealerships run their organizations a little bit more efficiently and a lot more profitably. And my last stint in the business was running 3 dealerships that used Autosoft as their DMS. So whenever I left that organization, I come to work for Autosoft. Been there a decade now. Really enjoy the company, enjoy the people, enjoy the culture, but really enjoy being able to help dealerships get the most out of their technology. So I really look forward to having this conversation with you today.
You don't talk to very many people that have a lot of experience in the front, the back, and leading a dealership, let alone those that also have, been a consultant and also been, I guess, being able to see into so many dealerships working with the DMS. I mean, that's a pretty unique perspective that you have.
Well, and actually, it comes up in conversation. So a lot of times dealers and I will get into a conversation that I can approach in a different manner because I actually sat in that chair and probably have faced what they're facing. And then I could show them how to take the DMS or technology of any matter and apply it to what they're trying to get done.
Cool. Well, I'm going to put you on the hot seat. In 1 minute or less, tell me what a DMS is.
That's a great question because the DMS is really the core software application at any dealership. And if you think about it as the cash register. It's where all of those transactions wind up. So for instance, you may have a service lane tool, a CRM tool, an inventory management tool, but all of those transactions have to wind up somewhere, and they wind up in the DMS so that the accounting people can then turn those transactions into a document called a financial statement that then will report out on the results of all of that activity and let you know if you made money or didn't make money out of all that activity.
Cool. Well, right now there's a lot of uncertainty. It's in every business. I mean, we have inflation, we have elections, we have maybe workforce issues, we have still some supply chain issues. Dealerships, a lot of them, from what I'm hearing, are looking to cut expenses. Do you have any ideas?
I'll have lots of ideas of expenses, and because of my background, I probably understand a little bit better than most about what operational managers, general managers, and dealers are kind of going through right now, trying to find every avenue. I know the rules of my dealership was anything that we did had to affect one of 3 things. So it either had to increase revenue, decrease expense, or improve the customer's experience. So if you really look through that lens, then you get to go through all of your items in your store and try to figure out how are we going to make more money, but then start looking at, and again, you're thinking about the big things. People are obviously the most expensive thing at any dealership, but then you have the big ones such as advertising and floor plan expense. And after that, all of a sudden technology really starts creeping in as far as how much we are spending on things. Many dealerships use multiple different applications to get done what they're trying to get done every day. So all of a sudden you start taking a look at a DMS that costs you $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month, a CRM that costs you $2,000 or $3,000 a month, inventory management tool that costs you $2,000 a month. All of a sudden you have $10,000, $15,000 tied up in technology, and you have to really sit there and start taking a look at: is there a way for me to get all of that software to be more productive for me, so that I do create a better customer experience, or that I can create more transactions, or I need less people to get done what I'm trying to get done? Or can I actually take a look at, maybe if I took that technology, can I look at another vendor that could then provide me all of that, or at least most of that? Because a lot of dealerships, they pay for a lot of technology and use very little of it. So is there a way to then pay for technology that you use and not have to pay for the technology that you don't use? So I highly encourage all dealerships to take a look at it through that litmus test as how can I either lower my expense on those items or how can I get more out of it. I'm not an advocate of just dumping all your vendors. That's not what I am saying. I'm just saying, either get the most out of your technology or see if there's a technology that you can get that can maybe bundle those things together and lower your overall cost. Because if you really want to talk about expense in a dealership, let me give you an analogy, for it. So, if you really take a look at dealerships running at the traditional 2% margin, and I know everybody freaks out about a 2% margin at a car dealership, but that's really what it's been over the years. Is let's kind of give an example of what 2% looks like. I used to talk about a $30 oil change, but there are no $30 oil changes. You can't even buy oil for $30 anymore. So if you take a look at a $50 oil change, have you ever been in a situation where a dealership gave you an oil change because maybe you were a little bit upset, or worse yet, a salesperson says, hey, buy a car from me and I'll give you 2 or 3 oil changes free, and you wind up with that free oil change? Well, $50 divided by 2% margin, somebody has to go out and sell $2,500 worth of something just to get the $50 oil change money back. So every dollar that you save in expense is like selling $50 of something on the other end of it. So as I do encourage dealers to take a look at how do we increase revenue, but most importantly, how do we decrease expenses, because every dollar saved is worth $50 worth of sales. So again, I highly recommend taking a look at the expenses in that lens, and then seeing if you can't lower your cost of your technology to get done what you need to get done at a dealership, instead of all of the other pieces that you're maybe paying for that you're not utilizing.
Wow, so you gave the example of when you stacked up all the technologies, a dealership spending $10,000 a month on technology.
Yeah, so, matter of fact, we were talking about the $5,000 for a DMS, $2,000 for a CRM, and $3,000 for other technologies such as lane tools or inventory management. You're right.
So if at $10,000, if at a 2% margin, basically the dealership needs to sell $500,000 worth of product on the first every month just to pay for their technology.
That's correct. And let's start talking about that. Let's say that your average car is $40,000, $50,000. Even at a $50,000, I'd have to sell 10 $50,000 cars just to break even with my technology that I'm using to sell those cars. So expenses can be very, very impactful to a dealership.
Wow. Well, now with technology, it seems like as technology progresses, it costs less and less. And you look at a cell phone as a perfect example. I mean, a cell phone, the computing power of a cell phone, if we were to buy that computing power 10 years ago, would have cost $1 million. Mm-hmm. Why technology is supposed to get cheaper? Why doesn't that happen in the car business?
Well, it does, and you gave a great example of the cell phone, because again, if you think about it, the cell phones aren't getting cheaper. We spend more and more for the cell phone every time because they keep putting more into the cell phone. Same thing with technology. And again, as technology that we use today gets less expensive, there's other technologies that we start putting into there that are more expensive. So, and then if you really start taking it, this becomes a disadvantage for those companies that are beholden to private equity or the stock market itself, trying to get that return for investors. Because how do I charge you more as a dealer? I have to keep putting more stuff into this so that I keep lifting your monthly rate so that I start providing those returns back for my investors. There's other companies like Autosoft, we're family owned, so we don't have to answer to anyone except for the dealer themselves. And again, it makes companies like ours a lot more nimble whenever it comes to providing software at less expense and be able to provide more attention to detail with the customers themselves.
That's interesting. Babcock's we're a third generation, family-owned company too, and it is kind of nice. Good ideas. They reach the top in a matter of minutes.
Yes, absolutely.
and you either know that you're in or you know that you're out. But it is really refreshing to work for a family-owned business.
And again, it gives us a lot more latitude about what we can do, and it's not just always about how does that look on the balance sheet. It's about how does that affect our customers, and can we do that, and can we do that for them as opposed to do that to them. So that's the approach that we do take.
Now, another thing that will often drive technology prices down is competition. What happens to competition in the dealer space? It seems like when I was starting my career and I worked at a CRM company, there were, I don't even know, 20 of them, 25 of them. I mean, and the dealers weren't even sold on CRM yet. Why is it different now?
So, and that's a great point, because I love going to NADA and going over to the the newcomers section right there, and technologies that are coming up, and they're great to watch. They really are. You start thinking about, so wow, that's a fantastic idea. Wish I would have thought about that, obviously. And then next year you go and they're nowhere to be found, and that's because some of the companies out there really do not like the competition. So what they will do is they will come in and buy the competition and then just shelve them. They'll just kill the competition, and that allows them to keep their position in the market and keep those prices elevated, because obviously with less competition they can charge more to get that. It's frustrating because there are some great products that have come to market that have kind of gone away because of the competition. The competitors don't want the competition from them.
Now, the automotive business, we all kind of think about us as like we're this outlying business, that we're different than every other business. But then there's people in the software business. They say the software business is a software business. Is it absolutely necessary for people in the software business to have dealership experience and understand the dealership to operate in our space?
I think it's helpful, very, very helpful, because trying to create a product, or trying to sell a product for that matter, and not understanding the other side of the desk, not understanding what does a service advisor go through on a daily basis. And again, the phone blowing up in the morning at 7:30 because people's cars won't start, and they're calling into the dealership. So I'm trying to answer the phone at the same time I've got customers in front of me. How easy is it for me to type, or how easy is it for me to walk out to the car and wait on the... So understanding that point of view helps you to create a workflow, create a UX that will allow or enable dealership personnel to create that better customer experience that I talk about. So I'm going to say it's important. Is it mandatory? No, it's not mandatory, because you need that software side as well. And again, that's where I really enjoy it, because I actually started off in computer science in college and came into the car business. So I get to see both sides of it, and I understand it from a different vantage point from being a vendor now, but being in the dealership before, about how we can leverage technology to do business the way that we want to do business, not necessarily the way that the software companies want to do business.
Well, I'm going to ask you to wear two of your hats. You got to put on your general manager hat and also put on your DMS vendor hat, 'cause we're coming back to the DMS.
Okay.
Why are dealerships so afraid to change DMSs? I mean, it's a big deal.
Oh, it's an extremely big deal. And the running analogy is, changing a DMS is a lot like a heart transplant. It affects every part of the body. I mean, literally, you've got service personnel that are waiting on customers in the morning. You've got accounting people that are trying to either pay bills or receive money back in from receivables. You got the F&I folks that are trying to deliver cars, sales managers that are trying to calculate payments. So it affects every position in the dealership. So dealers start thinking about, wow, how long is this going to have me down? Am I going to have the same functionality that today, that I have today? Will I have that tomorrow with my new system? So I think it's very important to understand that going into a transition to a new DMS, yes, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for some regression in your performance, but relatively quickly. Hopefully you've chosen the technologies that's going to enable the rest of your processes to work the way that you want them to do, and you're going to increase your capability and increase the customer experience. So I get why there's tentativeness. I've been through DMS changes. It was painful. And again, we get to do transitions every single month for our dealers, and we do our best to walk through, give them the expectation about what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and then how they can prepare for that to hopefully offset some of those pain points.
Well, let's talk about the pain they're preparing for.
Okay.
So if I'm a dealer, I've decided I'm going to change DMSs. What does that process look like, and how long does it take? I mean, is it something that's pretty quick? Is it something that takes, I don't know. How long does that take?
So, Brian, that's a great point, because a lot of people get into that transition way too late. And by that I mean they're not prepared for it. They don't understand everything that's going to happen. They didn't do their due diligence. So I always recommend to a dealer, if you're going to be considering changing a DMS, you need to be starting about 7 to 12 months out. The first thing that you need to do is take a look at your obligations to your current provider, because there could be a contract in place that has an auto renewal that's in it, or there could have been some sort of transaction where you purchased another service from them in the middle of your contract, which then extended your contract end date, and you may not have even realized that extended your contract end date. So first step is to make sure you understand where you are and can you make the change, because I can't tell you how many times I've worked with dealerships only to find out that as soon as we pulled their current contracts, they were under obligation for several more years, and they weren't able to change, even though that they were very interested in going to a different DMS. Second step to that is make sure that you get your team together and understand why, make sure that they understand the why you're changing a DMS. Is it for cost only? Because if you're changing for cost only and not getting the functionality you need, I don't think that's going to bode very well with your staff. Whereas if you're changing for cost and you can get the parts of the DMS that you currently use as opposed to all that you're being charged for, if you can downsize your expense, that's what you want to do. You want to get everything that you can do today for less money. I understand that. Let your team understand that, and they'll be supportive during that whole process. But let's get to that point where the dealer says, yep, I can buy it. Yes, I decided I'm going to go with you. What does that transition look like? So typically there's about a 60 to 90 day window there where there are forms that are being created or programmed or found for you that's going to support your F&I process, your service process, parts process. And then there's the data. We need to make sure that we get the data from the incumbent DMS, get it converted properly, have you look at it, make sure that it does look right for you as well. That takes some time to make sure that we agree. And then there's pre-training that goes in. So we actually take your data, put it into an area where your team can get on it, and we go through some pre-training. And then once the boots get on the ground, you're live, okay? So now you're using the new DMS, you're writing repair orders, you're delivering cars, you're doing those accounting transactions inside of the new DMS. So from that point on, you're using the new DMS probably not as efficiently as you used your old DMS, because you knew how to use that one, and now you're learning how to use this one. The good news is that that transition through that week, you feel comfortable that you can do those transactions, and then there's follow-up the following week, and then typically through the first or second month-end close, you will have us there to help you along the way, so that by the end of that second month-end close, you feel fully confident that you're getting not only everything that you had before, but a lot more, and hopefully for a whole lot less.
Nice. I've heard GMs say it before, and I'm just curious if you would agree that sometimes when you have a new employee come in, they learn how to use the DMS, and it's you push this button, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this. But when you change to a new DMS, now they're understanding why they're pushing those buttons, and so sometimes your people end up doing a better job because they'll start to understand actually what they're doing better. Is that something you see?
Brian, that is a great point, and it's a danger for all the DMS companies. Is the longer a dealership is on one of our systems, you have that danger of someone that was trained 15 years ago. Whenever they left, they gave 50% of their knowledge to the next guy. And then when that person left, they gave 50%. So we've got someone that has 10, 15, 20% knowledge of what the system will actually do. And I will tell you, I have been in situations with competing DMSs where the dealer says they don't do this, and I know they do. Or they'll be talking about my DMS and says, why don't you guys do this, this, or this? I go, we absolutely do. Let me show you. So it's a danger for all of us, okay? Training, dealers need to continually train on their technology, whether it's the DMS or some of the other items that are in the store like CRM. There should be a commitment to always be training people on the technology, and there needs to be a commitment from the vendors as well that as we do provide new capabilities and new technology, that we get that message out to the frontline folks, or at least poke them a little bit to say, hey, did you know that this was available, and get them thinking and investigating. I learned most about software when I started going to the places I've never been before. So, you and I were talking a little bit about Excel before. The way I find out about it is I go break something and then I go fix something. So, and again, hopefully that answers the question that you were looking for.
Yep. Or you just push every button, and then you go to every screen and you push every button again, and you just see where it goes.
And then from the support side, the first thing they ask is, what did you do right before this happened? And the answer is always the same: nothing.
Well, I want to throw a firecracker in the room, and actually, it's more like an M80.
Okay.
Why is integration? It seems like every year there's a new battle going on. It's almost like a schoolyard full of bullies. What in the world is the big deal about integration with all the software vendors in the automotive space, and why can't people agree on it?
Well, integrations is exactly that. It's a very it's a bone of contention right now for many different reasons, and let me give you a few of them. First of all, there are vendors out there that they need the data from the dealer, and they want us to provide them the data. A DMS, when I say us, I mean a DMS company, and it's all of us DMS companies, because vendors want that data out of the DMS for free, so that they can then turn around and sell it back to the dealer. Not even thinking that there has to be a secure method for us to retrieve the data, store the data, transmit the data to them. They need to store it, in a very efficient and secure manner so that they can securely and efficiently deliver it back to the dealer. There's cost all along the way, for that, but they're not willing to share in those costs. Okay, so the cost of integration comes up. And there's many different models out there. And for instance, Autosoft, we do not charge a dealer a dime for integration. We never have, we never will. That's not to say, though, that there's not charges that are included with the vendor services for the data coming from the dealer to them. We do not prevent vendors from disclosing that there is a charge, and it's an Autosoft integration fee, and the dealer is aware of it, that we charge it to the vendor, and we explain exactly why, and we don't have many issues with that. Some DMS companies use that model where the dealer is not charged any integration fees. It's the vendor that gets charged that. Then there's other vendors that they charge these exorbitant fees to any vendor that wants to integrate outside of their own DMS platform. Let me give you an example. A CRM company that may be owned by a DMS company, but the dealer wants to use a CRM that isn't owned by that DMS company. So there's a large fee to get that done. So the dealer then has to make the decision, do I pay the larger fee and get the CRM that I want? Or do I knuckle under and not pay the fee and settle for the CRM that they are going to make me use? So, again, there's that big tug of war right there. And then again, just to talk about it, DMS companies have layered applications out there that they own. They are going to do everything in the world to try to get you to use their software. So they may charge a larger fee, or worse yet, what happens is they make the integrations with their DMS tighter than what they do with other DMSs. And they use that as a marketing opportunity to say, hey, listen, if you were on our DMS, that application would work much better. Or the other way around. They could be they may have a DMS customer that is talking about how a different CRM software application isn't working as well, and they will go, hey, did you know that we own a CRM company? If you used our CRM, it would work much better. So there's a lot of reasons for this back and forth on integrations. And what it really comes down to is people trying to tell dealers how they're going to manage their business, as opposed to allowing dealers to choose which vendors that they would like to use, and then supporting that methodology to get that done. The primary thing that I want to make sure that I get out to everyone, though, is that it's none of the DMSs integrate to the application. Okay, it's always the application integrates to the DMS. And what I mean by that is there are several times that a dealer says, hey, why don't you guys integrate with this company so that they can send my data and receive my data at the same time? And we have to explain that's not up to us. That is up to the vendor. Okay, none of the DMS companies dictate how a vendor has to integrate with us. We allow them to do that. So there are some vendors that only want to receive data. They don't want to send it back. There are some that only send data and not receive it back, whichever way you want to take a look at it.
Yeah.
But my point being is, if there is an issue with the way that your integration is working, it's typically the provider, the vendor that you are choosing, that has chosen not to complete their certification or chosen not to subscribe to some of those areas that they could to make the product better, in an effort to either save cost on their side or to force you to use an application that's owned by the DMS. So, and again, I could go on all day about integrations, okay, because it's a constant battle. Even with the OEMs, the manufacturers are constantly changing the applications that they offer to their dealers, And DMS companies are constantly chasing those capabilities. We always have to be programming to make sure that dealers have that capability.
Interesting. Well, Mark, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience today?
So, and again, I come from the dealership world, so I think it's, I love having a conversation about the car business. I can't tell you how many times dealers and I will be talking about DMS, but we'll wind up talking about the car business at the same time. So I just ask that whenever you come to look at a vendor, relationships are important. I love to say that we sell relationships. We just happen to have software because, again, it really should come down to the relationship. Don't just take a look at the new fancy stuff. Make sure that it fits into your dealership. It accomplishes what you're trying to get done. Your staff is understanding how to utilize it, and that it fits into your process. Don't change your process to match to a vendor. And again, I think if you go through that lens, I think you're going to do very well with technology and help lower expenses or gain functionality that's going to give you a better customer experience, which goes back to what we said at the beginning. That's what we always try to do, is try to improve our positions.
Nice. Well, thank you for coming.
No, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for taking the time to join us for this AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today, my guest has been Mark Begley from Autosoft. We hope to see you again on a future episode. This one's Over the Curb and Burning Gas.